Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chouinard. I'm here with Glen Willis and Tyler Jones, and I guess maybe we should start by just doing a little health check. How are you feeling? Any groin pulls, knee swelling, general back achiness? You doing okay?
I mean, I got all those personally, and a sore throat apparently, but not as bad as the Hawks guard room. They seem to be all hurting at the moment.
Yeah, my wife and I once a week walk up to a Mexican restaurant that's close by, and the walk back is uphill, and I felt everything you mentioned on the walk back home.
Oh no, that's not good.
Part of being old, Kevin.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, but the Hawks aren't that old,
That's
and
true.
the Hawks are
Pretty young
banged
team.
up. So, I mean, how are the Hawks going to manage with one dribbling guard?
He's very good at
Uh,
dribbling.
yeah,
So
Trey's
the
gonna
the
have to put
guards. So let's clarify. What is the guard situation right now? It's Trey,
and
Garrison
Keaton
Matthews,
Wallace. Yeah,
and Keaton Wallace. Those are
and
your guards.
I guess Reese Shea. They're probably
He's
gonna
the shade.
try,
Yeah,
but no, it's not great.
that's not great.
So for those who haven't seen, should we walk? Should we walk through like the
Sure,
for tomorrow for the next Wizards game?
go for it.
Oh, you want me to go for it? So let me find it here.
Sure. Oh,
Oh, so yeah, where's it go? Thought I had it. Do you have it? Do you have it?
I'll do it.
Okay,
So
thank you. Go.
Bogdan Bogdanovic underwent a non-surgical procedure. He will be reevaluated in approximately 4 weeks. They didn't necessarily specify what the procedure was. They didn't even give a body part on that, but the last check it was sort of upper hamstring, I think.
Yeah,
Guard,
tendinopathy, right?
yeah, guard Kobe Buffkin, right shoulder subluxation, has begun treatment and rehabilitation. He will be reevaluated in approximately 4 weeks. Guard Dyson
So,
Daniels sustained a right hip flexor. He will be listed as out for tomorrow's game and will continue to receive treatment day to day. Vit Krejci sustained a right adductor strain during last night's game versus Washington. He will be reevaluated in 2 weeks.
Ugh.
And this is, of course, in addition to there was no specific update on DeAndre Hunter, who's missed the last couple of games after having a marvelous second game of the season.
I will say, Lauren one did tweet that Hunter might be close to coming back, so we'll see on him.
Right. He's officially listed as questionable.
Questionable. So he's a true he might come back next game, all things considered. But and I'll also add I think the Kobe Buffkin news being out he's not out 4 weeks, he'll be reevaluated
Yeah,
4 weeks is
all those were
actually
reevaluated.
yeah, I think that's also good news because if the injury is what I think it is, it's either he has surgery and he's out for he has like a labrum
Right.
surgery to
Right.
repair a torn labrum and he's out for the rest of the year basically, or he's going to try to play through it. So it seems like he's probably going to try to play through it for the season and then maybe reevaluate his options in the offseason. So that's like the good news is Kobe is probably going to play this season because there was a real possibility he wasn't going to play. But the bogey news is like, I mean, that's as devastating as it gets.
Yep.
They have very clearly missed him on offense, and the whole point, well, a big reason for why they were comfortable trading DeJounte Murray and not getting a a playmaking guard back in return was because of Bogey. Like they were going to elevate Bogey into a higher usage role just because of how good he is as a basketball player. He's one of the best players in the world, or in one of the 50 or so best players in the world. Apologies to ESPN. But like, I mean, this injury news kind of sets them back. This to me it lowers their ceiling and floor just because of the guaranteed shooting you're getting. the confidence you're getting at the position. And so they're like, this is probably going to hurt the whole team. Like, you just see how much harder it is for guys like Jalen and Ricochet in particular, uh, to start the season being asked to be elevated in roles they might not be ready for. And so it's probably going to be a bit. We're probably going to have more bumpy games like we had against the Wizards, uh, where they're having stretches where they're struggling to run their offense. So this is not a good day if you're a Hawks fan.
Yeah, and two of their three two-way players can't play right now. Two, right? Lundy can't play and Barlow can't play, right?
Yeah,
Right.
Lundy.
I got the impression this week that Barlow was close. He said that he was doing contact activities. Um, but Seth Lundy, uh, in fact, I'm going to take the Seth Lundy audio from the G League Media Day,
Media day.
College Park's Media Day, and I'm just going to append it to the end of this show, because I thought it was interesting in a number of respects. But when he was talking about injuries, he did not sound optimistic. He didn't really give a whole lot of details, but just said that, you know, it's going to be better when it's better, and he was going to take his time and make sure that he was fully healthy. So uh, it didn't sound like he had been participating in any activity recently. So I mean,
He
he
had
would be a huge piece if they had him right
yeah
now, and they don't.
yeah
Me too.
his injuries like coinciding with other players, like it's just brutal for him as a player. Try to establish yourself in the league and you can't because you're just not healthy when the other guys are hurt. Like this would be a good time for Seth Lundy to be playing basketball. They could use
Yeah,
a big wing shooter, uh, who's just who's just older and probably has more confidence on an NBA floor than Ricochet right now. Not to say he's better, but just speaking to some of Ricochet's struggles on the offensive end, I just think he's he's currently in a role where he's forced to be the shooter, and like that's a lot of pressure. Um, and it's a lot of pressure for somebody who has not done that in their career up to this point, being the space. Like he's been in France, he was the spacer, but it's a different context because they don't like in France they don't throw it to the open shooter all the time. Like they run their sets, they run their offense. They don't play the quick hit ahead game that they do in the NBA. NBA is much faster paced league at the moment,
yeah,
and so like Ricochet is just currently in a situation where like he's got to shoot a lot of threes, and instead of and what's unfortunate for him is like NBA teams respect him a lot as a shooter. They are in his airspace all the time, and they are closing out hard, and they're forcing him to drive, and then he goes into okay, he drives. How consistent are those drives? And so it's just a level of like it's forcing Ricochet to up his usage more than probably the Hawks would want. It's forcing Jalen Johnson to play make a lot more, be more of a point guard, which he can do, but you're going to see a lot of turnovers. Like I just foresee in the upcoming games like a lot more turnover issues going to be a thing, and they're probably going to really struggle when Trey's off the floor to score points.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, it is a lot for Ricochet. I think, I mean, it's kind of funny, but I think Roddy is a really key player during this stretch. And offensively, I think he's done some good work. But defensively, you get small lineups with him at the fourth, right? And we've talked about that, right? It's if you have Trey plus Garrison
And
plus
Roddy,
Roddy, right? It's rough. It's real. So I don't know if Nance is going to play some power forward. I don't know if that might happen. The fact that he could shoot a little bit helps, but he did none of that. Literally zero of that in the preseason. None.
right. But I
We
mean,
saw none of it.
I mean, I say two things. One, I really don't suspect that Ricochet's minutes are going to go crazy. I think that they're just looking at this long term, and even if the rest of the house burns down, they're not going to change what's going on in this one room because it's just that important.
Yeah.
So I still think he's going to be maybe 28 minutes max. I think that's why you saw such a weird substitution at the end of the Wizards game where I think they were trying to keep his minutes down but also
And
they wanted to play him, so they put him back in with like 2.5 minutes left, which was a really weird substitution.
Yeah.
it was a situation where it was very clear like they needed him on defense.
Yep.
Like it because like the Hawks were throwing Trey, Gary Matthews, and David Roddy out there, and they were just not able to get a stop. And it was just like I was confused. And then Brad made the point on Locked On Hawks. I hate to bring it up, Kevin. I'm sorry, but
It's okay.
on the last pod he did that. Uh, he suspects he's not reporting this, but he suspects that Ricochet may be on the medicine. Just
Oh yeah, absolutely.
it's just one of those things where and the last game where it was very clear to anybody besides be like, why isn't Ricochet on the floor? Like Koulibaly, who seems to have improved a lot, like should not be able to get his shot off like this if we had more length on the floor. But
Right.
we're playing three guys with sub 6'5" wingspans. It feels like I don't know. I think Roddy has a decent wingspan, but like Garrison Matthews and Trey Young just aren't the longest players in the league. And
Yeah.
so it was just like they had easier space to operate. The Wizards did on offense. Meanwhile, the Hawks, you know, on the other end, like if Trey doesn't have it going like he did last night, it's going to be tough for them to score. So it's a lot of pressure on Trey, which he's used to. But I just feel if you remember the OKC game, like a lot of the failings was that OKC just became committed to anybody but Trey. And the Hawks really struggled to get consistent offense out of anybody else. And that really sunk them against the Thunder. And then the Wizards, it was more of Trey's shot just wasn't falling, but also like the spacing wasn't there. Like he's back in a phone booth. Um, so Quinn's going to have to. I mean, it's going to be a lot of Trey Garrison Matthews minutes. It feels like, which defensively, that's going to be pretty tough. Hopefully Hunter's back, but like if he's not, like there's probably going to be a
Yeah.
lot of a backslide.
Yeah, it's funny, because I'm a sicko. I did a Roddy breakdown after they acquired him, and the last two seasons, most teams he was on played him on ball. They did not want him low man. They didn't want him back line. They didn't want, and it makes sense. And especially when you watch the last two games, he's willingly taking threes. He can make plays on the move on offense. He's good in short roll. All that sort of stuff. He's even got a nice little turnaround if he gets close enough, in the paint and all that
Yeah,
sort of stuff. But when he becomes a help defender on defense, it's like dead. It's dead. And he just doesn't have the size to kind of make the impact there. So that's, does he play more three now does he play with like Quinn and Acre have got some stuff to figure out about how to kind of construct lineups there. And it's funny because against OKC, the Bucks could not score through the front court at all. Right? They packed the paint, front diving, packed the paint. Jalen dribbling into three bodies, in the paint, etc. And then the opposite was true against the Wizards. They were like, we're not letting Trace initiate anything, and Koulibaly and even Carrington, I thought did a nice job, on him. And so in that case, the front court was super efficient against the Wizards. That's how they put up 119 points, even though Trey was 2 for 15 or whatever he was. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of come back on Wednesday night and try to find a more balanced offensive approach and because I mean they're not going to win if Trey, I mean Trey still had a lot of great assists. He still, he had untimely turnovers for sure, in that game against the Wizards, but they're gonna have to find a way to kind of create more balanced lineups than they were able to. And I get it, like the Heat injury happened on the fly, right? And that made them a ball handler short. But going into this game, like they've got to find a way to kind of create more balanced lineups to have some effectiveness on both ends, and that might mean more Roddy at the three. It might mean some dance at the four. Even we'll
I
see.
think Quinn's going to just even if Hunter is back, I do think Quinn might is just going to have to bite the bullet. With Nance at the four, I know he doesn't want to play two bigs. But Nance is a little bit more fluid than a typical center. Like, and he's played a lot of four in his career. He could probably do it with a Congo and Nance. He could probably it'll be good enough. But I just think because you look at the game like the Hawks. We could talk about all the rotation. Hawks lost the game because Roddy was playing way too much next to Garrison Matthews and Trey Young. Like that lineup just
Yep.
killed them. And the with and like any it's a repeat of what a lot of what happened last year of the Hawks being small in the backcourt, small in the front court, and just
Yep.
getting ate alive. And it's like it's one of those things with like Quinn. I know there are a lot of injuries, but we can't go back to like I just feel like the, there has to be some sacrifice make like there has to be an understanding of hey the injuries have happened. Roddy at the four is just not working. We've got to scrap that because like I just don't see any scenario where Roddy and Trey like if Roddy's going to be consistently be the low man help defender like that's just not going to work again. Like the NBA teams are just too tall. Like there's no other nice way to put it. Like we saw this with Sadiq Bey at the four last year. I don't want to see a repeat of that this year.
To me, the adjustment is Roddy needs to play with Clint. Like he needs to play with Clint. And if that means, I mean, Clint comes off early, Clint, I don't care. Starting, I don't, whatever you got to do, right?
Starter Congo
But
Nance, it
Roddy
doesn't
needs to
matter.
play with Clint. Clint needs to stay on the back line, and that's the way to keep Roddy out of trouble. And but the issue that they had was, you know, minutes with Nance, and Nance is great at getting, still switches and kind of, switching at the point of the screen and all that sort of stuff. But to me, I want to see Roddy supported by Clint in his minutes. That's the only way for me to make it work.
What what do you think about, I mean, I guess it's relevant because we're gonna get the rematch, but like what did you think of Quinn's sort of seemingly matching Capella's minutes to Sarr's minutes, where I thought that it was going to be just the opposite. I thought they were going to try to get him in when Valanciunas was in.
I mean, the Wizards made an adjustment and started start at the five in the second half, right?
Yes.
And they went small, and that was effective for them. And it's what, and again, when there's an injury like V, it's gone, right? I mean, I, I'm not an NBA coach, so I don't know how easy it is for an NBA coaching staff to kind of think through, like, okay, they went small. I don't have Veet anymore. What can we do? So I don't know, but I would hope they have a better plan coming in. But I mean, the only thing I can think of is that they wanted Clint to kind of eat on the offensive glass and be impactful there. Clint was 6 for 6 in this game. Clint was fine. I mean, we're all watching like he's not physically. I mean, as a center who has 38,000 or whatever minutes he has on his body, we've
It's
talked
a lot
about
of
this,
minutes. I
right?
don't think he has that many.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't remember. It's 28 or 30. I have to go kind of look at it. But I mean, a lot. It's surprisingly a lot, right? And so he's on that natural kind of progression that you would expect. But um, I mean, I know people got frustrated when he missed one shot, in the first half and those sorts of stuff. But for me, it's more of like pairing him with the right people. Like I want him on with Garrison. If Garrison and Roddy are going to play together, I want Clint on the floor. And so whatever Clint has to do to make Clint available to play with the smaller lineup, that's what I want to see happen.
I, I've just been frustrated with how Capella, similar to you, Glenn, but like I'm making my frustrations known on Twitter, obviously. But like
What?
I've been frustrated with how Quinn is using Capella at the moment. Especially when you have two up like I mean, even the OKC game, I don't quite understand why Capella played at all, especially in the second half. Um, when Chet's on the floor, first of all, and then when the Thunder went no center, I thought that was a pretty good opportunity just to go Nance Okongwu, like or to get Okongwu on the floor immediately and just punish the Thunder for playing so small because I just think Okongwu has more juice as an offensive rebound at the moment. So that game was weird. But like yeah, the SAR. I think Quinn was just trying to manage his rotation the best he could after Vit Krejci went down, and uh, you know, so with a day of thinking about it, like I can get it, but hopefully next game it's more like more intention of if you want offensive rebounding with a small center. Okongwu is a good offensive rebounding center, and he punishes weaker defenders. Like he's just the more physical player between the two at the moment. That that's something that's been pretty disappointing with Capella so far. I just don't. He's so foul averse. I wish he kind of just committed more fouls. Maybe just there's a level of intimidation factor. Jonas Valanciunas, he throws his weight around. He throws his weight around. He does dirty stuff all the time sometimes. But like that intimidation is real. And I felt like Capella left Sarr off the hook. Like if Capella and Sarr are going to match up again on Wednesday, Capella's got to just play with more physicality against him. Force him. Uh, he's a rookie, 19-year-old. Like he's got so much more weight and experience on somebody like Sarr. Like he should really push his advantage and start pushing him around. Throw him on the floor once in a while. Like who cares? Like yeah, these are the things you do to set the tone for your team in different ways. That's just my football brain thinking. But like, hopefully the Hawks have a better game plan of how. Even with all that, the Hawks should have won. Even with all the rotations up, they still should have won last night. But games against like that against the Wizards are going to happen with this team, especially without Bogdanovich. Like that's just there's just they literally lost. To me, I thought going into the season their second best player, and so uh they I, I'm kind of worried about Jalen's minutes. We talking about Trey, like Jalen's consistently playing 38 plus every night at the moment without Hunter, so that's something to also monitor as well.
Is the Clint played 16,000? I looked at his field goal made and transposed that, but 2,000 minutes a year. I mean, close to it for 7 straight years now. Lower body injury. So still that's a lot of minutes for a center who's had some lower body injuries.
But
So
but like the point is like we all understand that. So you're going up against two teams that are probably going to play smaller centers.
yeah,
Why not go with the Kongu and Nance? Like I feel like a Kongu could have played. Rest management. I think that was it. They were going to have they wanted to play Nance one of these games. Somebody had to sit. You can use a Kongu's rest management as the excuse to sit him.
yeah.
I felt like they could have done that with Capella. Like just full stop for these two
Against
games
OKC, probably, right?
against OKC.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
That's where I would have gone about it. But yeah,
sit
I
them
would
against
have flipped the two
OKC,
games.
and then have Capella play exclusively against Jonas.
Yep.
Match up 1v1, take Jonas out the game so we don't have to worry about his grifting nonsense that he does, that he gets away with because referees, I don't know. You're allowed to just use your off arm if you're not Trey Young. If you're Trey Young and you're 6'1", 165, you can't use your off arm to create space, but everybody else in the league can. So that's an interesting development. I completely understand Trey Young like losing his mind every time Kyle Kuzma just like
Clears
put
out.
a use a clear out to create space, and it's like, oh, initiate contact, clear the space, gets the foul. Like, well, what are we doing, ref? Like, it's that's Kyle Kuzma. I can't use my off arm when somebody's holding me. Okay, but so that's an interesting dynamic. But like, agree, Kevin, like and Glenn, like I. I thought like going into like you have three starting caliber centers. Like I just thought they were going to do it more matchup based instead of vibes based or whatever they decided to do here. I'm not a fan, um, but we'll see how they adjust now with all these injuries. You know I think Nance is kind of too good to play. Like they got to find minutes for him. This team
Yeah.
isn't so good. I understand he's a center. This team's not so good that Larry Nance is. Oh, you just can't play him. It's not like he's blocking anybody's minutes. Jalen's playing 38 minutes every night. Like, can we get Jalen down some so that at the end of the games his defense can stay consistent? when you're asking Jalen to do so much on offensive ends as well. So like that's something I wanna see change going forward with the rotation.
The one thing I want to
Yes,
see is,
go ahead.
if you're stretched to get minutes, because it's that dire that it's just like, where are you going to get your 240 minutes for this game? Like, I much rather put my faith in Larry Nance figuring it out at the four than trying to overextend Keaton Wallace. I don't think I want him playing a whole lot except for just the minutes where Trey sits, because I feel like as soon as he comes into the game, like your ceiling for what your offensive rating is going to be like 95 or something. Like he has not really figured out the NBA offensive game yet. Like even in the G League, he was an okay offensive player and an excellent defender on ball. And so he brings that, but like given the limited personnel at the moment, I just don't think there's going to be enough ways to juice the offense that he can play a whole lot beyond just what you absolutely need him to play, which to me is just when Trey sits.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, agreed. And I mean when it comes to Nance, I'm like, if you got to play Keaton plus Garrison, I mean, like I mean, Nance plus Jalen is great because he creates a lot of space for Jalen. To
Yep.
me, Jalen
Yep.
got most of the time he took to space where there's one body there was when Nance was in the game, and Wizards couldn't fully pull off on him or had to wait
Yep.
a tick, pull off of him. So and Quinn's been pulling Jalen early and getting him back out there for when Trey is off. That's been a thing too, and maybe that's the time to play Keaton. It was Keaton plus Garrison plus Nance plus Jalen, plus whoever else they kind of put out there.
Yeah.
But in my mind, to ride the bogey absence, and now V like tremendous on the catch and been a willing shooter. I feel like they've got to lean into Nance minutes here, and it's one of those things where it's like, okay, this wasn't our design coming into the year, but you need trust. And that to me, when you're shorthanded, having a guy that you can just trust to be a responsible player goes a long way, and I think that matters a lot.
What do you think is going to be like we I feel like we're looking at a lot of this through the prism of how do you get through the Wizards game because, maybe you get Daniels back in the short term and it's not quite as dire as it is for at least this one game going forward, but you're still going to be shorthanded with Bogey gone for a long time,
Yep.
Kobe gone for a long time. Like, what's the roster fix here? You've got Cody Zeller in limbo. You've got the ever present. We don't want to go into the tax. Well, I don't know that that's a public declaration, but you have all the
They
evidence of
can't
we're
get
not
there
going to
because they're
go
hard
into the
capped at the top.
tax, and so they don't have enough money to even sign a player for the season. Like, if they give Cody Zeller his full buyout, they can't sign a player and not go over the tax. Like is there some short-term way of managing this that another player comes in to just be a serviceable body? Like how's this going to work?
I mean, so my understanding is they're kept at the first apron, so I don't even know there's a path to get to the tax. On that, it's like one of those aw shucks. We did a sign and trade for Zeller, so now we're kept at the first apron kind of thing. And based on what I look at today, I never know if things on the internet are fully up to date or not these days. But it looked like I had like 5 million to the first apron. Um, can you get like everybody screaming for Markel Fultz? A guy who can't shoot. I love his defense. But like, is that worth kind of that investment? And I looked at the available free agents, and we're talking about like Alfred Payton, like he played in the G League last year. I mean, there's really nothing there apart from a trade, and you can't trade Zeller until December 15th. Going on memory, I think that's with the sign and trade. I don't think he was traded December 15th. And so for me, I don't see a solution. I mean, I don't see a solution. I mean, Garrison, not a point guard, not ever going to be a point guard. He that one not being bogey and beat both kill you. Kobe extended it. I mean, so, but to me, I think Hawks fans are like, just buy out Zeller and go find someone that could play 10 minutes a night and just responsibly handle the ball. I mean, I even went like Googling, like, what's Ish Smith's status? He's a coach now.
Yeah, he
I
is.
was like, where's this guy? Where's that guy? I spent a little time today on that. There's not an obvious solution apart from a trade. That seems trades before December 15th are almost unheard of in the NBA. So I don't know what they do except Brad Keaton,
Well,
put him on the forward Jalen and
yeah.
Nance, and maybe hope that works.
And when Dyson is back, like Dyson's probably just a better point guard than anybody they can get who's available right now in free agency, but he's hurt right now. So, um, I, I like Seth Lundy as a player, but it has to be if there's another injury, like forbid Trey gets hurt. They are they have like if they're but like if literally there's one more injury, they got to consider um uh cutting Seth Lundy for just a two-way point guard option. So that's how bad it is currently. Um,
I think if there's
but
one
to
more
me,
significant injury, then you might be able to get into,
the
depending on the
10
timing of it,
hard
like a
cap
hardship case.
hardship, yeah,
But they're
maybe,
not there
maybe
yet. So everything that they got to do now,
they're not there, and also like Cody Zeller isn't injured, so he doesn't
right?
count
No, he doesn't
towards.
count towards it, right?
Yeah, so that's another issue where it's one of those they're gonna have to if there's another injury they're gonna have to just pay the full boat with Cody Zeller and then figure the piecemeal it together so they're not they they magically figure out a way they're under the tax uh you know by the end of the year. But like to me, the solutions I said this before Dyson unfortunately got hurt because I was like, solutions on the roster. It's just for Dyson Daniels to be the nominal point guard. He can bring the ball up the floor, he can run an offensive bit. He grew up playing point guard. If you pair him next to Jalen, you can get away with it. Now with Dyson out, possibly next couple games, we'll see. Uh, Unfortunately, I think they're going to have Shea do some more on ball stuff. He's flashed it in spurts, but I just think realistically, you know, hopefully Hunter is back. But like, if they can get Hunter back, you can maybe be able to push Shea up to the guard position. Not saying he's going to play the point guard. Like Jalen's just going to be the nominal backup point guard. Like Jalen has to play every minute Trae Young's not on the floor now.
That's right.
So like that's really gonna like Jalen's gonna have to figure it out on the fly, uh, and somehow maintain efficiency while playing most of his minutes without Trae Young on the floor. But like that's what the team needs at the moment. And I think Shea has the ball skills to help him out a bit and the passing chops. It's not the role you wanted Shea to be in, but considering they're not saying this, but he's probably on a minutes restriction just because he's 19 years old
Yeah.
and he's gained 20 pounds, but like he's still like I mean he's still not a big guy for somebody who's 6'9", 6'10". They probably want to be careful with him. So
Yes.
like I just think in those minutes that he's playing, he's going to have more on ball responsibilities. Just I mean, you look at the roster like he's one of the few guys who can dribble up the floor. It's him, Jalen, Trey, and Keaton Wallace. If there's another guy, basketball player who can dribble, let me know. Like I think it's those four guys who have any dribbling equity.
Roddy?
David Roddy potentially as well. That's a good point. Just
I mean,
to
it's not like I'm dying to do that, but like if he
no,
gets
no, but that is
desperate,
that is yeah,
I think
that,
that's sort of one way you can go.
yeah. Roddy can do it. So that's I mean, granted his defense at the four has been pretty bad, but like overall, Roddy has I'm glad the Hawks made that trade to get David Roddy because
Yeah.
he's turning out to be a major piece for this team at the moment. So hopefully, he's in a better role for the team.
Yeah, I mean, this could be this is all horrible, but like for just David Roddy, like this could be a good thing. Like they might put him in a role that he hasn't been used in and say, "Hey, he can do it." You know what I mean? Like it's not like you're dying to see it, but all things considered, if you do see it and it's good, like that's one tiny sliver of positivity you could get out of this mess.
And I've liked his offense. I've
Yeah.
liked his offense. I've liked
Yep.
his drives to the rim. I've liked the intention, the physicality that he's played with is Sadiq Bey-esque. Um, but ideally, I would prefer just he be playing more of the wing.
Yeah.
So that's where it's like, you know, I didn't say this last time because I wasn't on the podcast, but the first two games, like that's some of the best basketball I've seen Hunter play on both ends.
It really
And
was.
so
Yeah.
I really hope, I really hope this knee thing isn't, like last year where he basically missed a month plus of the season. So we'll see. But like they really need that. The player that played those first two games, they need that play. The Hawks need him. Uh, and so hopefully he can be healthy. But I would imagine he will be on a minutes limit. So and this is where like I do feel for Quinn when he has to manage, these minutes, based on these guys, you know, what the training staff and what the team is telling him. He can't just play these guys 35 minutes a night and not think about it like Thibodeau, potentially with his team. So, it's a tough stretch, and it's as a fan, it really does put a damper on the season. Uh, when you're not 100% and you just got so many injuries where you're like, man, if they just had Bogey against OKC would not have been able to get away with what they were doing on defense. Like, and then the Wizards, they still should have beat the Wizards, but like credit to Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma, they were just they were incredible. And Bilal Coulibaly defense on Trae Young, that's as impressive performance as I've seen in a long time against Trae. Like so, um, we'll see if he can do that. Next game. Trey's usually pretty good at bouncing back from bad performances, but yeah, it's frustrating because I still believe in the talent on this team, and also like I'm looking at the Eastern Conference, like the Bucks and the Sixers don't look as impressive as initially thought, and the Pacers as well. So there's opportunity for climbing climbing up the standings, but we'll see.
There's so much we didn't get to talk about because like I feel like injuries derailed us too. There were so many interesting things.
Yep.
Oh well.
Yeah. I mean,
Soon.
I mean, recap, Oklahoma City was a better team.
Yeah,
Washington made a bunch of threes, and you hope that you figure out a rotation that'll work one night.
All right. Very good. I appreciate you as always. Night,
good night,
Bob.
Bob.
They're